What if I told you the most powerful person in the world loses basic freedoms the moment they leave office? Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's exactly what happens to former US presidents. One day, they're in charge of nuclear codes, global diplomacy, the military. The next, they can't legally drive a car on public roads. They lose access to their personal smartphones. Even their mail gets screened before they touch it. But that's just scratching the surface. Today, we're diving into the shocking, little-known restrictions placed on former US presidents. Some of these rules are designed to protect them. Others? Well, they might just be designed to control them. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at a former president the same way again. Make sure to stick around, because the last restriction on this list, it'll change how you see democracy itself. And hey, if you enjoy uncovering the hidden side of power, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss what they don't want you to know. Let's get into it. First up, probably the most bizarre yet understandable rule. They can't drive themselves on public roads. Yes, you heard that right. Imagine being the leader of the free world, commanding armies, signing historic bills, only to be legally banned from driving a car once your term ends. And no, this isn't about their driving skills. It's about security. After the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, the US government realized just how vulnerable presidents and former presidents truly are. From that moment on, Secret Service protection became a 24/7, lifelong obligation. That means armored cars, trained drivers, and strict no-driving policies. Even if they want to take a casual trip to the store, they'll be in the back seat, like it or not. Sure, they can drive on private property, like their ranch or estate, but public roads absolutely off limits. Some former presidents, like George W. Bush and Barack Obama, have openly joked about missing the simple freedom of hopping behind the wheel. But it's not a choice, it's the law. Now, that loss of freedom doesn't stop at driving. Former presidents also surrender control over something even more personal, their communication devices. We live in a world where your phone is your lifeline. But for former US presidents, their phones, laptops, emails, all of it becomes heavily restricted. Every device must be pre-approved and monitored by security agencies. No unencrypted apps, no private browsing, no impulsive tweets without consequences. And let's not forget the infamous case of Donald Trump, whose fondness for personal cell phones and unsecured communication devices raised eyebrows during his presidency and beyond. But officially, former presidents are supposed to use only vetted, secure technology. Their private digital lives basically non-existent. Speaking of privacy, even their mail is screened. Every letter, package, and delivery destined for a former president goes through rigorous off-site screening before it ever reaches them. It's a necessary measure. Countless threats have been intercepted this way. But think about that for a second. A man who once had access to the world's most classified information can't even open his own mail without government approval. But perhaps the most controversial restriction isn't about cars or phones. It's about power itself. Thanks to the 22nd Amendment to the US Constitution, no president can serve more than 2 terms. Period. That rule was introduced after Franklin D. Roosevelt served 4 consecutive terms, alarming lawmakers who feared the rise of a democratic dictatorship. So for presidents like Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, a 3rd term? Completely off the table. Some theorists still debate whether a former president could run for vice president and ascend to power that way. But the legal consensus? Once your 2 terms are up, your time at the plate is done, at least officially. But here's where it gets murkier. Former presidents may lose political power, but they don't lose influence. In fact, they often operate behind the scenes with more freedom and fewer rules than ever before. They can establish foundations, influence elections, and maintain direct ties to global leaders. They're private citizens on paper, but still massive players in global affairs. Yet despite that influence, there are strict limitations on their legal protections. Contrary to popular belief, former presidents can be prosecuted for crimes committed before, during, or after their presidency. as long as those actions weren't part of their official presidential duties. Donald Trump's legal battles after leaving office made this reality clear. Indictments, investigations, court appearances. The title of former president doesn't shield you from legal accountability. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. But even here, things get controversial. The Supreme Court recently ruled that former presidents have absolute immunity for official acts performed while in office. That means, as long as their actions fall within their presidential responsibilities, they cannot be criminally prosecuted for those acts, even after leaving office. Supporters say this protects the integrity of the presidency. Critics argue it opens the door to abuse of power on an unprecedented scale. After all, what's to stop a president from committing questionable official acts if they know they'll be untouchable later? And it doesn't end there. Former presidents also retain certain privileges, like executive privilege over sensitive information. While they lose access to classified briefings unless requested by the sitting president, they can still invoke privilege to protect specific communications or documents. But again, this depends heavily on cooperation from the current administration. Beyond restrictions and protections, former presidents receive a range of benefits under the Former Presidents Act. A generous annual pension, staff allowances, office space, healthcare access, and of course, lifetime Secret Service protection. It sounds like a cushy retirement until you realize those perks come with constant surveillance, reduced privacy, and limited autonomy. Even their global travel is regulated. While they're granted diplomatic passports and security details for international visits, every trip is coordinated with the State Department and relevant security agencies. A casual vacation? Not without layers of planning and oversight. And let's not forget, while they're barred from certain freedoms, former presidents often become unofficial diplomats, mediators, and influencers on the world stage. From peace talks to global summits, they play a quiet but powerful role in shaping international affairs long after their official term ends. But here's the real question. Are these restrictions justified? Or do they cross the line into controlling, even silencing, former leaders? Supporters argue that with great power comes great responsibility, and lifelong limitations are necessary to protect national security. Critics, however, see these rules as a subtle way to muzzle former presidents, limit their freedom, and keep them from interfering too much with the status quo. The truth? It's complicated. What's undeniable is this: leaving the Oval Office doesn't mean walking away scot-free. The moment a president steps down, they enter a strange new reality. One where they're protected, privileged, but also policed in ways most citizens will never experience. They may no longer sit in the Situation Room, but they never truly escape its watchful eye. So next time you hear about a former president relaxing on a beach or golfing at a private estate, remember, beneath the luxury lies a tangled web of restrictions, surveillance, and quiet control. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think these rules go too far, or are they a necessary safeguard for national security? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get this conversation started. And if you enjoy content that reveals the hidden side of power and politics, hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications. We've got more untold stories coming your way, because when it comes to the world's most powerful people, the rules don't stop when the cameras do. And sometimes, that's when it gets really interesting.